Welcome to the Money GPS. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. We all rely on the US dollar, and that goes for everybody around the world. Why? Everything's priced in the US dollar. You look at how trade happens internationally, it's US dollars, but now that's diminishing. You look around the world, and many countries are starting to say, why do I need the US dollar? The first thing I want to look at is the fact that right now the US dollar is strong and getting stronger, but in other aspects, it's weak. What am I talking about? I'll show you that. I will talk about Russia. I'm going to talk about inflation. I'll give you everything you need to know. Let's begin. Dollar strength pushes world economy deeper into a slowdown. Fed rate hikes and strong dollar are hurting global growth. Remember, the US dollar, the monopoly, the reserve currency isn't always so beneficial for all parties. Emerging economies are especially vulnerable as capital leaves. If things are more expensive, think about it. If suddenly the currency exchange is now a 20% difference, for instance, well, now you start to think, maybe I shouldn't do business with them and I'll do business over here because the significant changes could derail plans, business, imports, and so on. The soaring dollar is propelling the global economy deeper into a synchronized slowdown by driving up borrowing costs and stoking financial market volatility, and there's little respite on the horizon. So what we are watching right now, the US dollar really rising basically from the beginning of the year up until this point here, and you could see that this is comparing the US dollar to its peers. It's not comparing the US dollar to real goods. Because has your dollar really increased in value when you go to the store and you buy a loaf of bread or when you have to fill up the gas tank? Absolutely not. That's the difference. People don't see that. They say, hey, US dollar, it's doing good. What are you talking about, GPS? What the heck are you talking about? You don't know what you're saying, okay? Well, you have to admit reality, but many people are simply not able to do that for one reason or another. And we should not worry about these people, but we should pity them. A rising currency should help the Fed cool prices and support American demand for goods from abroad, but it also threatens to drive up the import prices of foreign economies, further fueling their inflation rates and sap them of capital. That's especially worrying for emerging economies. Now, think about it. If emerging economies start having a problem, that does have a ripple effect. It's not linear, it's not exact, but that's what occurs. Okay. And what I had talked about this previously many times, actually. When you see what was happening with interest rates rising, I believe this was back in the 2018 timeframe, they're saying, hey, don't do what you're doing here. Don't do it. We need you to print. Other central banks were saying this to the United States and saying, no, don't stop your money printing program. Don't stop increasing your interest rates. We can't have this happen. Okay, it's so important. But you see what's happening with the US dollar. Is it any different than any other currency in many ways? Your currency, whatever it is that's considered legal tender where you are, suddenly buys less stuff for one reason or another. Egg prices surge in the US, inflation data, as bird flu wipes out hens. This is just one aspect of it. Look around. Fears of supply chain chaos grow amid rumors Beijing's first ever lockdown looms. You got the supply chain, you got the lockdowns, you got the slowdown, you've got inflation all around, you've got the food supply problems, one thing after another. If you think gas prices are bad, diesel is in its worst crisis since the 1970s and has even raised fears of localized rationing. Now, when we hear about rationing, this is big because yeah, prices can go up, but most people are used to the stuff flowing in. They're used to the store shelves being full. But if you saw and heard or read or was there during this period of time and had to deal with this, you know this is serious. And then talk to people that live in many places today, developing nations, where they say, "Oh yeah, it's pretty normal to, encounter this type of stuff here and there. Oh yeah, rolling blackouts, we deal with that." I mean, these things people are in the United States, Canada, UK, Australia, they are not ready for something like this. And that's why you, the individual, must be ready. We got to be smarter than them, the average population. And unfortunately, for people that rely on us, that will rely on us, we've got to be prepared for them too, because they're going to come knocking on the door. Okay, if you appreciate this information, hit that thumbs up button. Okay, it's right down there. I want to thank you for that. Think about this. Okay, your neighbors, your friends, your family. If things get real tough, then they know that you're a little bit astute, that you've got things in order. You've got a garden in your backyard. They've seen it before because they came over. You talked about this and that. They're going to come and knocking. So we've got to be prepared. Okay. EU drafts plan for buying Russian gas without breaking sanctions. So you remember the EU said, you know what? We're going to hit Russia where it hurts. We are going to simply cut them off. We're going to make it impossible for Russia to do business with the rest of the world. And then like 4 days later, they say, oh yeah, and then we're going to figure out a way. We're going to figure out a way so that these EU companies can then go out and buy that Russian gas. What's the point? Like, what are they trying to do here? It's a joke. European oil majors report exceptional trading profits. So all along, tensions, geopolitical tensions, you got the, what's happening with, by the way, I'll show you in a second here, with Russia and Finland. You're looking at all the crises, one step onto the next. WTI crude at this time, $110 a barrel. Brent, $111. And who's making that cash? Well, one group is the European oil majors. They're making money. Iran says that it can double oil exports if market needs more barrels. Hey, world, you need more? We got it. That's what I think could happen here if you see the considerable output that some of these countries are able to do. The question is, will they be able to do so? Will they be allowed to do so? Okay, they still don't have a deal. The Vienna talks ended. Iran went home. Still no deal. I want to see what happens. Now let's talk about Russia. Putin's hockey pal and Russia's richest man, at least publicly, Vladimir Potanin, has been snapping up the banks for cheap amid an exodus of Western owners. This kind of reminds me what we see with, when we had the Soviet Union breaking down and then everything was kind of in a bit of chaos, turmoil. This individual here, if you have read the book Red Notice, which I highly recommend checking it out, Red Notice, he talks about this individual and, certainly a powerful one, something that people should be paying attention to. But I do see that when there is a crisis, some benefit. Okay? Doesn't always happen so linear. Might take many, many years, but it's in those times when there is distress, when there is the sign that, oh my goodness, nothing is going right, that certain people are able to profit. Finland's president initiated a phone call with Putin to tell him the country is applying to join NATO. Yes, that's right. Basically, apparently he called him up, said, we're joining. And then Putin on the other side said, okay, and we're going to have to make sure that we maximize, or something along the lines of, any country will have to maximize their defenses. He gave sort of a political response and basically saying, hey, you do that, we're going to, deal with that in our own way. EU cuts euro area GDP forecast, sees 6.1% inflation. Of course, time and time again, we see inflation rising, but you can see that this is, in an ever state of fluctuation. Okay, I'm looking at a beautiful bunch of vegetables right there. But what we can see is that people go to the store, they got to pay more for the same stuff. The stuff is sitting on the trucks longer. In my opinion, the quality has been reduced. I just went to go look for herbs. The selection of herbs has been diminished considerably. That's why you got to have your seeds. Seeds are, obviously there's a difficulty factor in there, but they're going to help. And if you could keep them in a good dry place, perhaps that will help you down the road. You don't necessarily have to use them, but that might be something important for later down the road. In California, I mean, they're proposing an $18 billion inflation relief package. $18 billion inflation relief package. Let's stimulate in order to provide relief. Well, there's different things here. Emergency rental assistance, 1.4 billion to help Californians pay past due utility bills, and so on. I get it. I understand. Okay. I'm not saying that people aren't struggling. I do get this. But the whole problem here, people, like, can we just go back? People don't want to understand reality. Reality is right in front of us. Why are prices so high? Why did housing prices get up to these levels? Why is this happening? Are we not going to acknowledge the fact that since basically the financial crisis, the world has engaged, let's just say the US has engaged in the biggest monetary experiment the world has ever seen before. And I'm supposed to ignore that and say, hey, forget about all that. Let's just put a band-aid on all this. No, I'm not gonna turn a blind eye. I'm not. This article is talking about co-op housing, but I just wanted to point something out. Affordability is a problem. And what do? Oh, the government comes in, let's create a regulation, let's create a rule, let's deal with this in patchwork. Instead of trying to address why this is happening, your currency, if that's the US dollar, is diminishing in value. What does that do? That pushes the prices of everything up, 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 and up. Your food prices, is it an asset to you? Your carrot, is it an asset to you? Maybe if you're eating it, but it doesn't exactly last too long, right? Unless you're planting it in the ground and creating more or something. You got to look at this in a realistic sense. Your currency diminishes. What do? You've got to hold real assets. At the same time, you have to reduce your expenses. How can you reduce your expenses? I do talk about this in my second book and also in my first book. But what you can do as an individual is to grow a garden. You could plant those seeds. You can look around for things to sell around your home. You could flip stuff online. You find it in the free section on Craigslist, Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace, and then resell those things. You can use the skills that you have. Maybe you're a baker. Maybe you're an accountant. Maybe you're a bookkeeper. Maybe you'll do whatever it takes. You'll sweep and you'll broom and you'll cut the grass and whatever, that you can increase your income today. And maybe it's just a little bit, but that little bit helps. There was a time that I was working 3 jobs, work. Why? Because I needed to bring that income in, and it didn't matter what type of work I was doing. It was paying me, and I did that, and I worked myself hard, okay? And now times are different, okay? This is a very real situation because I knew that hard times were coming. So I wanted to be prepared as best I can, okay? I'm only one man. I'm only doing my the best I can do, okay? I'm going to end the video there. If you found that informative, hit that thumbs up button. If you do appreciate it, all that I ask is that you support it with one little click. If you want to join the 282,000 subscribers here on the channel, you can do so by hitting that subscribe button. I'm posting stuff here every day, but also on Twitter. Check me out there, and chances are I'm going to be starting on Instagram and TikTok again. So definitely join me there. No dancing videos on TikTok, although stay tuned for the reverse repo party. I promised when it hits $2 trillion in a single day that we would have a reverse repo party, and you can join me here. Stay tuned for that. You'll have to join me either on Twitter, or I will post it on the blog or community section of the channel. So definitely check me out. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.